Mr. Reed, and on that last point, we'll have you expand today or more generally for the record what we need to do about that last point. I definitely think in the past we have sided too much with the big companies on the patent side and not enough empowerment of the inventors, the smaller companies. So I want to make sure we get that part right in addition to your recommendations. You've made a couple of very good recommendations. Thank you. I'd like to go to a couple of charts here if we could. One, when we first started working on the privacy law, I'm going to direct this to you, Professor Callow, but what got me going was the transfer of wealth to online advertising. I don't think people really quite understood how much the television, newsprint, radio, magazine, the entire advertising revenue shift went online. Now we're just talking about the internet. Could you bring that a little closer, please? Get that up a little closer. So we are now at, we are now at 68%. I don't know if people can see that, but we're now at 68% of all spending, 2/3 of all spending of advertising has now taken place online with data and information. So that trend is just going to keep continuing. Now, you and I have had many conversations about the effect of that on the news media, having community voices. Our community in Seattle, Kink 5 or the Seattle Times couldn't exist if it had misinformation. It just wouldn't exist. But in the online world, you can have misinformation. There's no corrective force for that. But all the revenue is now gone to the online world. And the second chart describes, I think, a little bit about your testimony that I want to ask a question about, and that is the amount of information that is now being derived about you, that AI is this capacity to derive sensitive insights. So that trend that I just described, where 2/3 of all advertising revenue, I mean, somebody said data is like the new oil, right? It's just where everybody's going to go and make the money. So that's a lot of money already in that shift over those years that I mentioned on the chart. But now you're saying they're going to take that information and they're going to derive sensitive information about us. Ms. Kack said it's the way your voice sounds. You've described it as, various features. So could you tell me how protecting us against that in the AI model, why that's so important? And I just want to point out, we're very proud of what the Allen Institute is doing on AI. We think we're the leaders in AI applications. We're very proud of that, both in healthcare, farming, energy. We have an agreement today between the United States and Canada in principle on the Columbia River Treaty. I think, water AI will be a big issue of the future. How do you manage your natural resources to the most effective possible use? So we're all big on the AI implications in the Pacific Northwest. But we're very worried about the capacity to derive sensitive insights. And then, as you mentioned, an insurance company or somebody using that information against you. Could you expound on that, please?
Absolutely. I was talking to my sister who's on the board of the Breast Cancer Alliance about my testimony, and she said, Ryan, just make sure that people know how important it is for AI to be able to spot patterns in medical records to ensure that people get better treatment, for example, for breast cancer, right? And I agree with that, and I'm also proud of all the work we're doing at University of Washington and Allen. The problem is that the ability to derive sensitive insights is being used in ways that disadvantage consumers, and they're not able to figure out what's going on and fight back, right? So, for example,
thereby driving up costs.
For example, right? I mean, we know why everything costs $9.99, right? It's because your brain thinks of it as being a little bit further away from $10 than it really is. But the future we're headed to, and even the present, is a situation where you're charged exactly as much as you're willing to pay in the moment, right? Say I'm trying to make dinner for my kids, and I'm just desperately trying to find a movie for them to stream, you know, that they both can agree on, right? You know, if Amazon can figure that out, or Apple can figure that out, they can charge me more in the moment when I'm flustered and frustrated, because they can tell, right? And if that sounds far-fetched, Senator, Uber once experimented with whether or not people would be more willing to pay surge pricing when their batteries were really low on their phone, because they'd be desperate to catch a ride, right? Amazon itself has gotten into trouble for beginning to charge returning customers more because they know that they have you in their ecosystem. This is the world of using AI to extract consumer surplus. And it's not a good world, and it's one that data minimization could help address.
Senator Wicker.